Sorry, I gotta be my mark. Thank you for enjoying the film. This was such a good audience. I loved the laughter. The first time I watched this film, I laughed so much. But yeah, before I'll introduce back Danielle and Dominique. Great entrance. So, it's okay. We can wait. You can keep going. There we go. You're talking loudly, so we keep doing that. Okay. How this will work, I'll just ask a couple questions because I know you're eager to ask a bunch of questions too. So we'll do our best to fit everybody. Please try to keep it to questions so we can get to as many as we can. And I'm sure we'll be happy to like just have a little conversation outside after. But yeah, thank you for being here. It's really a pleasure to be able to show this film here at Inside Out. It's special to me as a trans person to see you in the screen and connect with other trans folks and connect with other trans folks of color. Your story is like to show this story is a privilege. So my first question is just kind of how to see how this happened. This film is one of the most candid films I've ever seen. It's just so easy to feel like connected with all of you and to feel like there was so much honesty and like safety in the making of the film. So I want to know how did you end up here? How did you end up in this film?
So I think one of the things that Dee wanted to do was really elevate the way in which trans stories was told. And so that's why she shot it at that particular angle, that you're always looking up at us. And she found us through social media, as well as like some of us already had platforms. So she reached out to us and said she had this idea that she wanted to be able to tell the experiences of Black trans sex workers. And I think mostly for me, it was because I had the opportunity in life where I was able to go on and be labeled as what some would say is successful or thriving. But I was in those spaces and a lot of people didn't know that I was still surviving. And in particular, I think it got to a point where when the phone stopped ringing and opportunities stopped coming in, I went to what I knew best, which was survival sex work. And I thought that for me, it would give me an opportunity to really share my truth and my full truth without carrying shame, because I got to a place where I was thriving but surviving, and I didn't really know how to balance the two, because I would leave a gala and people would say, you know, oh, it's so good seeing you, you know, go home, get home safe, and I had no way to get home. And I had to keep balancing those realities. So Kokomo City was an opportunity where bearing my truth meant that I didn't have to necessarily compartmentalize my reality in a way that said I was not deserving and that it was something that should be so shameful. So that's what it represents.
I also came to the project of Kokomo City by the reason why I felt so comfortable, because it was by a Black trans woman, and I knew that she would give us a platform to share our stories. And as Daniela said, you know, I was holding also a lot of shame for being a survival sex worker, and I was doubling two lives as like a model and a sex worker, and trying to separate the two. So this kind of gave me the freedom to own my survivalism and accept it and put it to the world and give an example of thriving in both fields and dealing with the cards that we have dealt it as Black trans women in society. And yeah, when she contacted me, I was very hesitant because I was a very private person. And as you see in the film, like, you know, I was a kept woman, and I didn't want my resources to dry up for being so transparent, but also I want to be representation of what survivalism is and thriving and the realism of what Black trans women have to do in society and have to survive, and finally have like a weight lifted off my shoulders to be able to be here and be in this film and have you all watch it and have you understand our stories and walk with us. And I mean, that's the most important part to me. And to have someone to be able to relate to that struggle and know that there's an out of it, and here's an example of where you can end.
Yeah, I think the room changes. Like for me, like I think the room changes. The way that I speak, the way that I act changes whenever I'm surrounded with trans folks. Whenever I feel like there is something that we can connect to. We're all different, but there is this like invisible like connection that we have, and these shared experiences that just makes me feel completely like comfortable or like easy to like let go. Because it's just easy to say something that other person will be like, yeah, 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 same.
Okay? You know what it's given.
Yeah, that part. Like, do you think like the fact that this was like shot and edited, which de-edited on iMovie, which is crazy.
Wow.
But do you feel that's something that you felt like this special like safety like moment when you were surrounded by like other trans folk and you were with D, like, and this is why trans people should this is why trans people should tell their own stories.
Yes, thank you.
What? Oh yeah. Sorry. I think so. This is not to anybody who's BIPOC and trans in this room, a form of an attack on you. But I think we still have issues within our own community that we need to work through. The ways in which we pedestalize those who have access to a more glamorous lifestyle and those who may still be on a journey to finding themselves, right, and have limited resources. And so I think what this did was show that, you know, where we are as a community is that we need to honor each other, create space for each other, be a part of projects that is led by us that can really tell our stories in a very authentic way. But I also think to our counterparts, so the non-trans people in the room, I think it is your responsibility not only to watch these films, but to find ways to get more involved and just not use it as talking points at the dinner table, as, you know, different, like, I'm not gonna say everyone does this, but I do think that at some point we become a token to meeting people's quota. And it's like, once you've gotten what you needed out of us, we're disposable. And so I think, yes, it's great that we have trans people, you know, like Dee, who told our story, but she's an example too of a Black trans person who had limited resources, limited support because of her very brave decision, right? That in her career and thriving and successful as a music producer, songwriter, that she wanted to live in her truth. And when doing that, those same people who are now, you know, praising her, the same people who are now, you know, taking recognition to her work are the people who dismissed her, right? And that's what a lot of our experience look like. We're used and then we're dismissed, excuse me. And so I think as a community, we can do better internally, us as trans people. And I think to our allies, show up more than just the month of June, because it's kind of late at this point.
I also want to add how that it is very important, and my main cause to be a part of this film and stand in front of all of you is to protect Black trans women at all costs, because, you know, we lost our cast member before she even got to see the release of the film. And yeah, we are all sitting here and we're seeing her and we're hearing her story, but the same thing that made us who we are and why we're in the film is the same thing that took her out. So what I would ask for all of you guys, in any cost that you can do, is protect Black trans women. If you do anything else in this world for any of us, that's like the main important thing that I want to say, and help us to elevate ourselves and be protected in this world, to have the protection just as everyone else here. Everyone else can walk down the street calmly at night and get into their cars and go party at night, but not all of us have that option. And as you can see, we lost someone to that. So mainly that is what I really want to stress to the audience, and this is why I'm here to represent. But also, like, you know, a piece of my heart is missing because Coco didn't get to see us, see you here and see us win all these awards. And so that would mean a lot to me too. Whatever that looks like to you, like as Danielle said, not just in June, every day in every way possible.
We'll open questions to the audience. Any questions? Yes.
First of all, I want to say sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Also, I want to say I'm agender, and so as someone who's non-binary, part of the trans umbrella, but still having certain privileges in the ways that we can navigate and walk through the world, especially myself having male passing privilege, how do I act in solidarity or leverage that privilege in a way that it's effective for people who don't have that, who are also my trans family?
I feel like when you're in these spaces, you should advocate and let it be known who you are and how you associate, and normalize the conversation so that way there's not so much questions and it doesn't invoke violence on people, because, you know, people are afraid of things that they don't know. And I think the more that you walk into your truth and you're announce who you are and be proud of who you are and stand for who you are, it gives a good representation for people to not invoke violence on you, on other trans people, on homosexual, etc., in my opinion.
Sorry about that. The way in which I think you can leverage your privilege as a person who's passable. So I think passability is definitely subjective, right? Because I think the ways in which society chooses to police people's gender or sexuality is simply based off of what is the most palatable. And so I think that what it would look like leveraging your privilege is no different than the way I would tell a white person to redistribute their wealth, okay? Because when we know we have the privilege, but we refuse to have the conversations, when we refuse to trickle the resources down to the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, then that in itself is an act of violence. And so I think that when in space, and given that this is a community that is ever evolving, I think what we have to do is, one, educate our peers, educate in terms of people in our community, and then when it comes to creating public forums about the conversation, we should make sure that those people having the conversation is diverse and representing all experiences. Because, you know, as you say that you're agender, and I have to be completely honest, I don't know what that means. But would I be willing to learn? Would I be willing to invite you into community? Of course. But I think when we just expect people to understand the language, expect them to understand our experiences without educating them first, that's something, to my belief, is that we're doing an act of disservice to so many people, to the trans person in which you hope to represent in your own experience. So I say that what it looks like is starting a conversation, being a part of building a community, and inviting everyone in, because what we've done is now been so politically correct that people are afraid to engage with us. And so now we have to allow people to be shamelessly ignorant, because that's the only way we can start to change the ways in which we have these conversations, by letting them know, like, you might get it wrong this time, but if after this conversation you try it, I'm not only gonna read you for filth, but you better not catch me on the day I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, because you're gonna catch these hands, no shade. No shade.
It's true. I'm not saying it isn't true. We have time for one more question.
After this story, do you want to tell stories of other people that you know? Is this platform going to help you maybe amplify the voices of other girls that you know and other people in your community?
So I actually founded my own film festival, a digital film festival that highlights BIPOC creatives. And so in doing that, I believe I'm helping to tell other trans people's stories I also do like throughout the year different give backs. So I have experiences with like foster care, and so I also have a charity where I give back over about $5,000 a year to queer kids in foster care system. I'm writing my own book. I just recently directed a campaign for Condé Nast. So I think because I know that my life expectancy is 35 and every day I'm at risk of losing my life, me being here is telling other trans people's stories. Because those who don't have the platform or the access, this is still their experience. And they're deserving of it, whether it be in a position of thriving or having to shed light on the reality of survival work. So I'm out here just slaying and not playing. So hopefully y'all find ways to support other girls.
And submissions are open for the
Oh
festival.
yeah, and submissions are open now, and I'm highlighting specifically Black trans filmmakers or projects that speak to the sociocultural trans issues. Deadline is June 15th. So tell y'all people.
I'm just advocating a lot for sex workers and taking up space in places where we normally wouldn't be. And I'm planning on making a podcast to talk about my experiences of navigating both industries, whether it's sex work and mainstream, and inviting like multiple guests from all genres and sexualities to share their experience and open up the dialogue that really needs to be open at this point. And yeah, just going to all these festivals, meeting all of you, answering your questions, and just living in my truth. That's what I can do now for the girls and represent. And that's what I can do for now until I have a bigger platform, and then we take it from there, girl.
Thank you so much to all of you. Go.
Sorry. I will say I do sex work. I've started year before last, and I've never been placed in a position where I felt that I would have to worry physically about my life. And I think that's because I'm post-op. Realistically, I have on my ad that I am post-op, and it entails me not to work on the trans side because they do want a trans girl with a stick. Which, it's kind of like
You're not swinging on them out, baby.
period, right? So, but I will say that I do profit from the heterosexual side with me saying that I am post-op trans, and then they have their guys that do it. But in regards to being safe, I will say recently I have came into a situation where I felt that my life had almost been threatened, and that was the reality for me to realize that I actually haven't had anything in position to make sure my life was safe. And watching this and seeing you guys and even experiencing everything opened my eyes so much for me to realize, regardless of the situation, no matter what side it's on, I have to make sure that I have things in a position for me to be safe. And I'm asking, how do I go about that?
I think, if it depends on if you're traveling or if you're at home, it's having something somewhere with easy access that you can protect yourself. Screen your clients at all times, get the information, share it with a friend, have someone that knows what you're doing and check on you with the times that you're with your clients, and have already shared their information and your whereabouts and your location. And honestly, what I did when I was working in sex work heavily, I started training in mixed martial arts, which is Krav Maga, which is like a self-defense tactic. So that really helped me feel empowered when, just in case anything ever went down, because you never know whether you're post-op, as I am too, or not. People are crazy nowadays. So you always have something in place to make you feel safe, whether it's mace, whether it's a bat, whether have a friend, have the phone nearby, anything that you can do to protect yourself, do it, and more ways than one. Because, maybe one could not be enough. You maybe need a backup or something, because, people, it's very risky. Now, a lot of people are mentally unstable, and yeah, I would hate for something to happen to you as well.
So, I guess I'm not gonna be that nice. I would say get your ass an escape plan. I think, saying like figuring out ways how you can continue to do the work. I think that in itself, to be honest, is a part of the problem. Because, if you're making a means to an end, I say like, okay, what does, penny stocks look like? What does, really trying to create a realistic plan to just escape it. And if you are going to continue to engage with it, you know, I say bear mace. Y'all be out here talking about pepper spray. I'm giving bear mace them hoes. And another thing is that you have to find like who are your allies in the community that you live in, that would be willing to protect you too, right? Because I think to her point, it's like, oh, you can have like, you know, a support system, a buddy system, but how soon can they actually like get there, right, to save your life? And so it's like, first figure out how can you start investing that money. Two, always be honest up front, right? Don't ever let no sucker, you know, take your life because he's saying, oh, I didn't know. What we know is that it's okay to be trans, whether you're post-op or pre-op, you know, and celebrate that aspect of your life, and don't let survival be 100% who you are. And so, you know, I literally had to balance, right? Like, suck a dick at night, but get my ass up to a real job during the day, because I'm going to need a pay stub to get my ass an apartment where I want to live and not where somebody going to tell me I should live. So invest, plan, love. I mean, and no shit, I got married to get up out of that too. So if you find a man worth it, grab what you need and pack it on up.
Okay, now we have to wrap it up. I already got in trouble. So please make your way out. I'm sure we have El Mocombo. Please, please, please come to the party and help me celebrate these amazing women that let me stand next to them for 15 minutes. So please, please go to the party, celebrate trans Black women, and celebrate trans people of color. And yeah, community is community. Let's help each other and support each other. Have a great night. Please make your way out.
Hold on, you go in the middle.
Yeah, because I'm tiny.
You gonna let him go in the, yeah, you go in the middle.
I'm tiny.
Come closer, come closer, come closer.
Okay.
Nice. That's good right there.
Oh wait, one, sorry.
So what's up with me?
Okay.
Perfect. Can I get a picture of just the two of you?
Yes.
Really quick. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You were great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
See you later at the party.
All right. Wow. That was a whole experience. It was like, wow, the way that film was made. It's beautifully made. The soundtrack alone, wow. And the stories, oh my goodness. And lots of perspectives there that we can discuss and debate and dialogue around. Some pronouncements that were made that are, you know, challenging, but hey, I'm sure I say things super going, what the hell? So, yeah, but it's a good discussion. All right.